Rain hit the Bronx like somebody was dumping buckets from a fire escape. Kurt Williams ducked his head against the wind and pushed through the front gate of his apartment building on Morris Avenue. His work boots were soaked, and the paper bag in his hand had gone soft at the bottom from the wet. Inside the bag were a loaf of bread, a can of coffee, and a roll of paper towels. He had planned to go straight upstairs, kick off his boots, and eat something hot. Instead, when he reached the front door, he saw it hanging a little too far open. He frowned and stepped closer. The lock should have caught when the door shut. Instead, the latch sat crooked in the metal plate. The door kept swinging a few inches in and out with each gust of wind. "Not good," Kurt muttered. A cold draft blew past him into the lobby. The overhead light buzzed once, went dim, and came back with a weak, yellow blink. Kurt looked down the hallway toward the stairwell. The basement light at the far end flickered too, like a bad television signal. He set the paper bag on the dry edge of the mat and tried the door again. It would not shut all the way. Something inside the lock was bent or jammed. Before he could kneel down for a better look, a voice called from the mailboxes. "Kurt?" Mrs. Delgado stood there in a blue raincoat, holding a flashlight in one hand and a little plastic bowl in the other. She lived on the third floor and always moved like she was in a hurry, even when she was not. "Evening, Mrs. Delgado," Kurt said. "You okay?" She held up the bowl a little. "I was making soup. Then the lights started doing that thing again. And the fridge in the basement office made a noise. My medicine is in there. The nurse said, 'Keep it cold, you know.'" Kurt nodded right away. "Your insulin?" "Yes. And the building lights keep going in and out." Kurt looked at the door, then at the stairwell. The rain rattled the front windows. He could hear the old building creak and settle under the wind. "I'm going down there now," he said. "I'll check the generator." Mrs. Delgado bit her lip. "Do you need help?" "Not yet. But stay near your phone. If I need you, I'll call up." She gave him a quick nod, then looked at the broken door with a nervous face. "You think somebody could just walk in?" Kurt took a flathead screwdriver from his tool belt and knelt by the lock. "Not if I can help it." He pulled the strike plate a little with the tip of the screwdriver. Mud and old paint had packed into the hole. The rain and wind had probably pushed more dirt in over time. He scraped it out, then pressed the door shut hard with his shoulder. It almost caught. Almost. The latch slid into place for 1 second, then slipped back. Kurt swore under his breath. He tried again, this time lifting the door a little by the knob. The latch clicked deeper. He held it, then turned the key. The lock fought him, but the bolt moved. At last, the door stayed shut. It was not a full fix. He could feel that right away. The frame was warped a little, and the lock still did not sit right. But it would hold for the moment. "Keep an eye on it," he told Mrs. Delgado. "If it starts swinging again, call me." She pointed at the bowl in her hand. "I'm not going anywhere." Kurt gave her a quick nod and headed for the basement stairs. The stairwell smelled like wet concrete and old soap. Halfway down, the light above him flickered so hard he had to stop and grab the rail. The bulb buzzed, brightened, then dimmed again. Water dripped somewhere deep below. At the bottom of the stairs, Kurt could see the basement hallway. A weak strip of light ran along the ceiling, but 2 of the bulbs were out. On the floor near the laundry room, a thin stream of water crawled around a drain that was struggling to keep up. The storm outside was pushing more water into the old pipes than they wanted to handle. He turned left toward the utility room. The metal door there had a red sign that said, "Emergency Power." The sign was half peeled off from years of steam and dust. Kurt unlocked the door and pushed inside. The generator sat in the back corner like a tired dog, black and boxy, with pipes running out the side. A small green light should have been shining on the panel. Instead, a red warning light blinked on and off. The engine was not running. "Come on," Kurt said. He leaned in and checked the display. The battery light was on. So was the fuel warning. He straightened slowly. "You have got to be kidding me." The storm had not just hit the building. It had also made the old generator work too hard. The battery was weak, and the fuel level was lower than it should have been. Behind him, the hallway light gave one long blink and then dimmed again. Kurt moved fast now. He crossed to the storage shelf, where the building kept cleaning supplies, spare bulbs, and old tools that nobody ever wanted, but everybody needed. He grabbed a gallon can of diesel from the back. The can was lighter than he liked. It had enough fuel for now, but not much more. He heard footsteps on the stairs and looked up just in time to see Mrs. Delgado at the basement door, still holding her bowl. "You should not come down here," he said. "I only came to see if the lights were dead," she answered, "and to ask if you know what is happening." Kurt looked at the generator. "Battery's weak. Fuel's low. I can get it going." Her eyes moved to the water on the floor. "Will the fridge stay on?" "If this starts, yes." She drew a slow breath. "Then please start it. That medicine cost too much to lose." And Kurt nodded once and got to work. He opened the generator cover and checked the battery cables. One of the terminals had a white crust on it, and the wire was loose. That explained part of the trouble. He pulled a rag from his back pocket, wiped the wet metal, and tightened the clamp with a small wrench from his belt. Outside, thunder rolled over the block. Kurt heard it as he poured a little fuel into the tank. The smell of diesel mixed with damp concrete and old paint. He wiped his hands on a rag, set the panel back, and turned the key. The generator coughed once. It tried to catch, made a rough grinding sound, and died. Mrs. Delgado let out a sharp breath. "Oh no." Kurt did not answer. He stared at the panel. The battery light was still blinking. The engine had almost started, but not enough. He tried the key again. Nothing. A hard gust slammed through the building, and somewhere above them, a metal door banged shut. Then the basement lights went out. For 1 second, everything turned black. The only light left was the blue beam from Kurt's flashlight, which he had clipped to his shirt and now had to grab with one hand. Water whispered across the floor. The fridge in the basement office gave a small electronic beep, then went quiet. Mrs. Delgado said, very softly, "Kurt." "I'm here," he said. He swung the flashlight beam over the generator panel, then down to the floor. The water was rising just enough to make him nervous. It was not deep yet, but if the drain backed up more, the room could fill fast. If that happened, the breaker box and the fridge would be in trouble. He shoved the diesel can under one arm and moved to the side room where the emergency tools were kept. He found a spare battery charger, a dry extension cord, and a stack of old towels. He tossed 2 towels on the wet floor near the breaker panel, then used another to dry the battery terminals as best he could. Mrs. Delgado stayed in the doorway, not stepping in, but not leaving either. "My nephew says when things go bad in this building, they go bad all at once," she said. Kurt gave a short laugh that had no humor in it. He's not wrong tonight. He checked the battery again. The clamp was tighter now. He listened to the storm above, then looked at the fuel gauge. Barely enough. Still enough. He took one more breath, turned the key, and pulled the starter lever at the same time. The generator gave a hard kick. It coughed. Then it roared to life. The sound filled the basement, like a truck waking up in a closed garage. The red warning light went dark. A green light snapped on. A few seconds later, the strip of hallway bulbs overhead came back one by one, first weak, then steady. The fridge in the basement office hummed again. Mrs. Delgado shut her eyes for a second and smiled. Thank God. Kurt kept one hand on the generator panel until he was sure it would stay on. The engine rattled and settled into a steady hum. He listened for any bad noise. None. Good. Then a loud slam came from upstairs. Kurt and Mrs. Delgado both looked toward the stairwell. Front door, Kurt said. He was already moving. He took the stairs, 2 at a time, flashlight in one hand, tool belt bumping against his leg. When he reached the lobby, he saw the problem right away. The storm had caught the front door again. The lock was holding now, but the old closer had not pulled it tight. The door had opened just enough for a strong gust to shove it hard against the wall. A thin line of rain blew into the lobby and scattered across the floor. Kurt slammed the door shut with his shoulder. The frame shook. He could hear the latch fighting the warped metal. He dropped to one knee, opened his tool belt, and pulled out the same screwdriver, plus a small packet of screws. He knew the lock plate needed to be moved a little higher. He had fixed worse on worse nights, but not usually with rain blowing in sideways. He worked fast, not pretty. He loosened the plate, lifted it a hair, and drove in a new screw with the heel of his hand and the screwdriver handle. The metal squealed. The door still did not fit cleanly, but now the latch caught more solidly. He tested it. Once, twice. This time, the lock held. Behind him, the lobby lights stayed on. The front windows glowed gold against the dark street outside. Rain ran down the glass in long silver lines. Mrs. Delgado came up the stairs slowly, holding her bowl like it mattered more than anything else in the world. "Did you get it?" she asked. Kurt stood up and wiped his hands on his pants. "Yeah. For now." She looked at the locked door and let out a long breath. "You make it look easy." Kurt shook his head. "It only looks easy after it stops breaking." That made her laugh, just once, and then she held up the bowl again. "My soup is probably cold now. Do you want some?" Kurt glanced at his wet boots, the muddy floor, and the soft glow of the lobby lights. His coffee and bread were still sitting by the mat where he had left them. He thought about going upstairs to dry off, but then he heard the steady hum from the basement below, and knew he could wait a little longer. "In a minute," he said. "I want to check the fridge one more time." So he went back down. The generator was still running strong. The basement office light was on. The little fridge beside the desk gave off a low, steady sound. Kurt opened the door just enough to see the green medicine box inside, still cool, still safe. He shut it again and nodded. Then he stood there for a moment in the warm hum of the working generator, with rain tapping above him and the old building finally holding together. Outside, the storm kept going. But inside, the front door was shut, the lights were on, and Mrs. Delgado's medicine stayed cold.